Jesse, thank you so much for joining me today. Can you just kind of introduce yourself and give me a bit of an overview of your background to start off?
Sure. So I work at Visa in the data science lab. I've been there for about 2 years, but I'm speaking today in an independent capacity. My background was originally in law and politics, so neither finance nor technology, although I did get a pretty good commercial grounding when I was a lawyer. But I got into politics in 2008, and since then I've basically loved anything to do with politics, regulation, policy, communications, always in highly regulated, quite kind of technology-driven, quite publicly controversial, politically interesting sectors. Mm-hmm. So Fintech, obviously, energy and climate change, and telecoms.
Okay, amazing. So how did you kind of begin your work in AI from that sort of background?
So I was always very interested in technology, and what you kind of saw across energy and telecoms was this this kind of move from big asset bases to a systems approach. Mm-hmm. And as you move towards a more systems approach, everything became more integrated, the technology became much, much smarter. And when you start to look at something like smart cities, you get to kind of Internet of Things, and from there you start to move into, proper data science, proper AI. Mm. So when I kind of finally came into the fintech space, it was just amazing because this is where AI is exploding in a really exciting way.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what are the key problems that you think data science and AI should be trying to solve, I guess most specifically in fintech?
So I think from a data science perspective, this is all about making better decisions, right? We used to live in the dark ages as a society where we had to make loads of guesses, mm-hmm. and a lot of those guesses didn't turn out well. And we're talking about, huge socioeconomic impact here. So if we can use information, use data to make better decisions for the benefit of society, for businesses, for customers, for the world at large, that's hugely impactful. But the challenges, obviously, are that we have to be trusted in order to do this, right? Mm. We, the companies that do it, the governments that do it, the regulators, we all have to be trusted by the participants in a digital economy. And unfortunately, I think that in the years leading up to where we are now, the technology has grown incredibly quickly, but trust has declined. And there have been some bad actors, there have been some mistakes made, but a lot of this is also just to do with understanding. A lot of people haven't really understood the way the world has changed around them in terms of technology. A lot of people aren't aware of how AI is even influencing their lives today. And there's a bit of worrying research out there that seems to suggest that the more people understand, the less they trust. And that's a huge challenge. Regulators are going to look at that and they're going to say, we need a really good case from businesses that you can do this responsibly, that you have the governance in place, that you're going to explain clearly what you do, that it's going to be fair. So all of these incredible transformational benefits that we all want to see have to come under this umbrella of trust.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you think we can use deep learning to kind of help us with some of these challenges?
So I think explainability and accuracy are two really interesting parts of this, right? So whenever we talk to regulators about AI, what they want to know is how does it work?
Yeah.
And then we say, well, listen, the more that we're into deep learning here, the more advanced this becomes, the less simple it is to explain how it works. And then you immediately hit that trust problem. And there's fears about bias and discrimination, which are absolutely legitimate. So what we have to find a way to do is speak in a language to regulators and to consumers about the way that all this works, which means that we can still harness the power of deep learning, get to that state of accuracy, which really makes this all worth it, without compromising on explainability. And it's always going to be a trade-off. But I think that we all need to think more as designers and people in this industry about how we can do that.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, kind of on the same kind of area as regulation. I know that you just spoke on an ethics panel as well.
Yeah.
And so there's so much data in finance, and a lot of it is obviously quite sensitive. So what do you think the best practices are, or what do you think the best practices should be on keeping this safe and secure, and I guess private as well?
So, I mean, you would hope that all companies have got good governance across every area. And there's some arguments to say, listen, why should data, why should AI be different? You should just have really robust governance. But I think we all do know that it is different. The extent to which this can influence people's lives, and the idea that we are perhaps devolving decision-making in certain circumstances from human to machine means that there does have to be an added layer here of thinking and governance put in place. For me, I think the ideal kind of combination for responsible use of data would involve legal compliance, obviously, really good operational governance, and that means accountability, auditability, explainability, and then I think you need your ethics piece. And I think lots of businesses are already having a really serious think about what ethics means to them. It's very difficult for us as a society to solve this problem that we've been talking about for thousands of years. What does privacy mean? What does fairness mean? What does justice mean? We're not going to, I suspect, get a huge global view on this, but every business needs to have a really hard think about that. And once they've got those three elements, the legal, the operational, and the ethical, you need to find a way of embedding this across your whole company. So it's no good if you have champions of ethics over here and brilliant lawyers over there. You have to find a way throughout the whole value chain to integrate this so that everyone in the company understands it's not just compliance, it's actually the way that we think and believe and act as a business.
I was just going to say, do you think we need a chief ethics officer? But I guess that's almost contradicting what you've just said. We don't want to separate it all up. But
I mean, it's great to have people who are experts. I think that's really important. And you know, the idea of having champions is a good one, but not if what you are doing by that is siloing these areas. It needs to really be everybody.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously, it's not just finance that is using AI and deep learning. As we said, there's so many different industries that are using it. And what other kind of like real world problems do you think can be solved with the progressions of AI and deep learning?
Yeah, I mean, in finance, I think financial inclusion for me is a fascinating one, because at the moment you have so many people around the world who are just excluded, not just from the digital economy, but from the economy altogether.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if you can understand those people better, if you can develop better products and services to help them participate, you drive economic growth and you also just lead to better quality of life for people all around the world. And we know that AI and data science can be a platform for that. So in finance, I think that's extremely exciting. Outside of finance, you know, my background is in energy and climate change, and I look at the potential for using data science and AI to build more sustainable cities, to deal with air quality. You know, I mean, the potential here for environmental solutions is absolutely immense. We still don't have a real solution to climate change, and I feel like in the data somewhere, in the AI somewhere, we might get there.
Definitely. And to solve all of these global challenges, obviously we need more people coming into the industry, more experts. So what do you think are the key skills to kind of have a successful career in AI?
So it's a really interesting one because I'm not a technologist. My background is legal, political, regulatory. And so on the technology side, what I hear from talking to people is that, you know, there is an absolute abundance of brilliant minds, right? Yes, we need more training. Yes, we need to bring in a more diverse group of people. But are we smart enough to do this? Yes, absolutely we are. What I would look for in the skill set is not just the smarts, right? Not just the technical capability and the acumen. I would like somebody who understands the bigger context, which is this need to build and maintain public trust. Is this need to embed governance and accountability into what you do. It's a need to be able to explain what you do and do it ethically. What you don't want is a generation of brilliant data scientists over here acting in an ethical vacuum.
Definitely.
And a political vacuum. And so what I would like to see from somebody is that they're good enough to do this intellectually, but they've got enough EQ to understand the way we have to do it. You know, we talk to brilliant technology people all the time who completely accept that technology is amoral, right? It's completely value neutral. And that doesn't bother them hugely. They're just up for solving the problem. So we've got to shape the next generation of brilliant people in this industry that they want to do both. They want to solve the problem and they want to do it in an ethical way.
And what do you think we can do to have a more diverse group of people working in the industry, like more women and more cultures as well?
So this is a fascinating one, because if we don't achieve what you've just said, then what we're going to do is we're literally going to transplant all of the social inequality and injustice we have in society today into an AI world. And we all know this, and we can already see it in the way that there's bias in certain products. So I think everyone is very conscious of it, and consciousness is probably the first part, but it's part of a broader problem. So this is a fascinating problem, right, obviously, because as we all know, we already have a huge number of embedded socioeconomic injustices and inequalities. And if we're not very conscious about how we design AI, we're going to just embed them into an AI systems-driven world. So I think everyone is thinking very, very hard about this. There are some incredible groups like Women Leading in AI who are pushing really hard on us to think about this stuff. But it's part of a broader problem. You know, it's part of a broader problem about how you create diversity in STEM subjects. It's about, is there enough funding? Are there enough apprenticeships for all of this? I think business has a big role to play. You know, we have to be looking really carefully at what kinds of skills are we bringing on? Are we looking as far and wide as we possibly can for the right talent? But I think that, you know, there are campaign groups out there who are going to keep banging on about this issue, and we need to listen to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. It's been great to chat with you
Okay.
today. And so, just kind of to wrap up, what do you think have you enjoyed most about the summit today? Have you enjoyed about being here?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I really enjoyed chatting with my fellow panelists.
You are allowed to say that.
We had a really good chat.
Yeah?
A really good chat. Sometimes you do a panel with people and then everyone disappears afterwards. And we actually stayed and chatted for about an hour.
That's so nice.
Yeah, it was a really good cross-section of interests and absolutely fascinating.
Good.
So you did great. You brought together some really good people.
Amazing. Well,
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you enjoyed it. And thank
Okay.
you so much for chatting with me today. It's
All
been
right.
really great.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.